Verse 3 again talks about the anointing. Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard and anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Nard comes from a flowery plant that grows in the Himalayan regions of India. Since it was so rare and had to travel so far, it was extremely expensive. John will mention later in the passage that it was worth about 300 denarii, which is almost a year's wages. Can you imagine if somebody came up to you with some hand cream that was like $50,000? We don't know if Mary's family owned it. Maybe it had been passed down, or if her family was extremely wealthy, or if a bunch of people in the village of Bethany all went in together and put in money to buy it. We don't know how she acquired this incredibly expensive ointment. For the people at the dinner party, though, it's probably the most expensive thing that they've ever seen in their entire lifetimes. Our text mentions that Mary anoints the feet of Jesus. This is an example of humility to wash the feet of another person. I've been married for almost 4 years. Carrie has not washed my feet one time. It also foreshadows Jesus washing the feet of his disciples in John chapter 13. Something else to note about this event, John tells us that Mary anoints Jesus' feet. Matthew and Mark say that the oil was poured on Jesus' head. The latter would be expected for an Old Testament style anointing. So which one's right? I think both are right. And that both Jesus' head and feet were anointed. Again, she's using like a pound of oil. Can you imagine if you were trying to use a 16-ounce bottle of Jergens? You'd be lotioning up your teeth with that stuff. None of the gospel writers ever claim that they always give totally exhaustive reporting of the event. In fact, John, I keep pointing to this verse at the end of his gospel, says that Jesus did so many things that the whole world would not contain those books. And I point this out because when there are little discrepancies like this in the Gospels, this shouldn't shake us or concern us or make us fearful. But what we should look to is what the different gospel writers, inspired by the Lord, what they're emphasizing and why they're emphasizing it. In John, it seems to be that he's talking about the feet of Jesus being anointed because it's showing Mary's humility before Christ. Lord willing, I'd actually love to, on Sunday nights, probably not until next spring, go through Mark just to get another gospel and to, again, you do see some of the different ways how the gospel writers describe and talk about events. Again, I think that they're consistent, but for theological reasons, sometimes things get pointed out or stated differently. Turning our focus again back to John. Mary has anointed the feet of Jesus. And again, it shows the humility that she has before Jesus. John also mentions the fact that she wipes his feet with her hair. Again, total devotion to Christ that she shows. What's the most valuable thing that you own? In his commentary on John, Richard Phillips tells a story of F.B. Meyer, who was a preacher in the 19th and early 20th centuries. And he tells the story of a pastor who asked his church for a special love offering and to give something that was especially precious. Some people gave rings or jewelry. Some people gave money. But the most special thing put in the collection plate that day was a note from a woman whose daughter wanted to become a missionary in a faraway land. In those days, when someone entered the missions field, before modern technology and modern communication tools, that could sometimes mean that you would never see a person again. And this woman had told her daughter not to go because she couldn't bear to be separated from her. But on that day, Out of her love for Christ, this woman decided that she could not stand in the way of her daughter and be selfish, and to keep her daughter from going and sharing the good news of the gospel with others. That was what was most precious to her. For some of us, the most precious thing might be our time or our freedom. Maybe you've worked your whole life, and now maybe you're a little bit older. You've got some resources to do the things you want to do. I'm not judging that, by the way. For people who are retired, I hope you enjoy those years. I really do. I'm just saying that there can sometimes be a temptation to want to make things about ourselves. I did my time. I worked my job. I raised my kids. And I'm not saying that's true for everyone, but what I am saying is that freedom can become its own idol. Those are just a couple of examples. That there's no shortage of things that we can turn into idols. It's like John Calvin said, the human heart is a factory of idols. It's things that we can take and make the most important things in our lives. If it's anything but God, that's idolatry. And so for Christians, we should examine our own hearts and consider the things that we truly value. In this story, Mary gives something of tremendous value to Jesus. And so I ask, is Jesus the thing of greatest value in your life?